Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
Hello everyone, my name is Judy Mai and I am a double major in supply chain management and entrepreneurship senior here at the University of Houston. And here today we have Kelly McCormick, program director for Red Labs. So to begin, hey Kelly, we would want to get to know a little bit about your background. So if you can, please tell us a little bit more about your childhood and how it was in college, and give a little background about your professional career.
Sure. I'm excited to be here. I've done the hosting a few times, so I'm excited to be the guest here today. So just a little bit of background about me. I guess if we're starting from childhood, I grew up in Cleveland, and I went to school in Ohio. I went to Miami of Ohio. In Ohio, not in Florida. I get very particular about that. And I have a degree in finance from there. After college, well, I guess at some point during college, I decided I didn't really want to go that route, want to get into finance. I started becoming a little bit more interested in nonprofits and social justice work. And so I did a year at AmeriCorps, and that was in Columbus, Ohio. And I think I started getting a little antsy and wanting to go somewhere else, go somewhere new, somewhere outside of Ohio. And so I found myself applying for law school and went to Tulane Law School in New Orleans, which was an incredible 3 years, but again, at some point during my education, I decided maybe this isn't really for me. And I decided to take the bar in California and try to practice for a little while, but I really, really didn't want to practice. And it became painfully obvious that I just needed to do something else. So I got a job at Stanford out there when I'd only been practicing for a little while, and then got this job, and I was like, I have to do this instead. So I worked at Stanford for a few months, and then I got another position at Stanford doing research with a professor out there, which is what I really wanted to do. That the first job kind of led to the second job, and I wanted to do research, academic research that I'd been involved with a bit while I was at Tulane, but I thought, man, I really want to do this full time. And then again, after getting into that for a while, I thought, maybe not, maybe something else again. And but the opportunity at Stanford really allowed me to get more into some of the programming aspects and see how you can work with students sometimes. That was another opportunity that came along with that work at Stanford. So I was definitely just more into that side of it. And I found this opportunity here at University of Houston just through pure luck, and started working a few years ago on the startup accelerator, Red Labs, and I just became totally enamored with it and the world, the startup accelerator, or the startup world and startup community, which had kind of already started at Stanford, and they have a really strong entrepreneurial community, but I think here I got the chance to be more engaged with it. So I worked for a few years with the Startup Accelerator. Well, I still work with the Startup Accelerator, and I started teaching Intro to Tech Entrepreneurship, which was amazing. I'd never had the chance to teach a class by myself, and I was definitely intimidated at first, but I love it now. And then about 9 months ago, I started teaching Women in Entrepreneurship, which is my new love, and I absolutely adore teaching that class and love working with women in entrepreneurship and helping support women who want to become entrepreneurs and leaders. So that's kind of the path for how I ended up here. It's a very convoluted, crazy path, but I think you kind of have to take that.
Yeah, for sure. But, thank you for coming to UH and, fully supporting all of the programs that we have now. So let's dive a little bit more into the Women in Entrepreneurship course. What exactly is it, and what's the goal of the class?
So the course is intended to help women entrepreneurs, but it's also intended to just kind of talk about some of the issues that are specific to women in entrepreneurship. And so the goals of the class, I think there's two real main goals of the class. The first one is helping women believe that they are helping empower women to start companies. I think a lot of times women have the belief that they need to know everything about entrepreneurship. They need to do all things, and they have to have this whole solid foundation of understanding before they start a project and oftentimes, or a company. And oftentimes they also need a little bit of a push from someone, just saying, like, you're ready for the next step, you're ready to take this to the next level. So I wanted this class to be not only a resource for education for women, so that they felt like even if they didn't know everything, that they had at least a solid foundation to understand what they needed help with. And then also that support system to help women believe they can move on to the next step. So give them a certain level of confidence with moving on to the next step. And then there's also the aspect of just discussing some of the other issues that women encounter in the workplace or as entrepreneurs, and discussing how to handle that and tackle those issues. And that's really what I've tried to make the class about. And of course, it's open to men, so I don't want to say that it's only to help women. And of course, it's open to everyone. And there are definitely parts of it that I think all of those parts are helpful for everyone. But I've designed the curriculum to be something that I think will be particularly helpful for women, because I've noticed some of those issues with my discussions with women entrepreneurs and women leaders, that they think, education in those basic areas, so they know those components of entrepreneurship, and then also that support system to have the confidence to move forward, are just the most important things.
Well, awesome. Well, being a student and a female student in the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, that's honestly something that I feel like a lot of us do struggle with. And so having this class and being able to learn from it, and, just having you lead the class itself, it shows how much of a difference that we can make together, especially for the female community. So why do you think it's important for business students to study women in entrepreneurship?
Well, I actually think it's important for all students that have an interest in entrepreneurship just to be in this class or take something similar to this class. Business students, I think it's great for, but, art students, STEM students, anybody that's really interested, I'm like, come on over. If you have a desire to be an entrepreneur, anybody in the university can actually take this class. But I think it's important because entrepreneurship is one of those subjects that people often are intimidated by, and they just they think, oh, that sounds really cool, but it's not for me, and they just don't approach it because they have this whole like mystifying aura about it, and that's not true. I think the only thing that you need to be an entrepreneur, there's nothing that you can't do. It's just the only thing you need is the desire to actually be an entrepreneur. And of course, I can't teach someone that if that's not what they want. But if you're at all interested, I think it's important to just see what this process is like to start a company. And you don't have to do it right away. It's not something that we require at the end of the class that you start selling a product or that you have an idea ready to go to market. Just that you have these skills and you know that in the future, I think it gives you a certain amount of confidence in yourself that you can do this later if need be. So something I talked about with another friend of mine was that I've never felt so secure ever since I started working in entrepreneurship, because, of course, the 9-to-5 job does have a certain amount of security, but the reality is that no matter what, there's always some insecurity. There's always some chance for disaster or problems or whatnot. But if you really believe that you have that hustle to do something yourself and make money yourself, I think it gives you a lot more personal security in yourself to not feel as nervous or, burdened, very, just like that you might need to strive for something that you don't even want to keep yourself secure. If you really feel like you have the skill set to be an entrepreneur, well, I think there's just a lot more confidence you have in your life. So I think it's really important for all women to take this class. And also something else that I think is important from this class is some of the leadership abilities that we try and work on. Of course, school is great to learn basic educational components of entrepreneurship and all other kinds of education, but I think it's really on you to go out there and learn some of the softer skills, although I think now people are calling them power skills because making them soft makes them sound like they're not important. But I think you really do have to go out and have those experiential opportunities. You have to take that on yourself. And a class like this, other entrepreneurship classes, they do give you that experiential component where you can have the opportunity to be a leader. You can have the opportunity to learn more about what it makes a good leader. And I just think oftentimes we don't take the time to sit back and think about that when we're in school, when we're working so much on making a grade and doing our homework that we're not focusing as much on some of those skills. And I think they're wildly important. And as soon as people go out to actually get jobs, they'll see that. So it's good to start working on that now.
Yeah, I agree. So speaking about like adding more like value to classes and students in general, how does this class even add more value to the students that are in it? Are there any like mentorship programs, or how do y'all bring like business leaders into the class itself? Because something that I found really helpful as a student is being able to connect with business leaders all around Houston and just being able to get their insight because they have so many more years of experience. And so, for this class or even to students in general, would you suggest having these mentorship programs even more interconnected with all sorts of classes on Bauer or in Bauer?
Definitely. I think mentorship is such an important part of your education and your career, and it's something that I think you need to work on, cultivate those kind of mentorship relationships throughout your whole life. It's just important to move forward with your goals and your, like I said, your education and your career. So we do have in this class, I've tried to include mentors that will give feedback on your ideas. In the beginning, we have an idea presentation and get mentor feedback, and at the end of the semester, we'll also have another similar type of presentation after they've been working on their idea throughout the semester, or been working on some of their career choices or goals throughout the semester. But another thing that I do in the class is bring in some women who have their own company, and some of the areas I was talking about earlier just that were essential components of entrepreneurship. Well, if you feel there's something that's not very approachable for you, like sometimes finance, law, pricing, all that kind of stuff can be a little intimidating. So I try and bring in women who actually have their own companies in that area so they can get feedback from those women and also see that, even though this area of expertise might be a little intimidating, this woman is doing it and she's doing a great job with it. And she has her own company in it, and it's, you can do it too. Because I think that's part of mentorship. It's not just advice and feedback, but the chance to see someone excelling in an area that you either want to be in or that you think you could use more skills in, something like that. That's just a good way to have some guidance there, as if you see someone doing what you want to do. And then another thing is that I've been trying to have on hand is, I try and meet with the students regularly to keep up with their goals and what they're working on. And I try and have this like bank of people that have certain areas of expertise that have been expressed interest to me in working with women entrepreneurs, so that I can guide them to a mentor that can help in a specific area, because that's really the most important thing, is when you need specific help in a specific area, to have a mentor that understands that. So I've been trying to really increase that in the class, and I also require networking events so that they have the chance to go out and create those mentorship opportunities by themselves too, because at some point you're going to have to do that. So I require that as part of the classes, early practice somewhere else.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And we'll be right back after we hear a message from our sponsors.
Got an idea for a startup? Red Labs is the University of Houston's co-working space, startup accelerator, and technology entrepreneurship program. Supported by Bauer's Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, we work with UH-affiliated founders to turn your technology startup ideas into high-growth ventures. We provide free co-working space, access to mentors and resources in the startup community, and customized startup curriculum. For more information, visit redlabs.bauer.uh.edu.
So Kelly, earlier this month, you took a trip to Silicon Valley and you brought a group of selected students to go with you. I wonder where your fascination for tech startups began, and can you tell me a little bit more about this trip?
I think my fascination actually began right where that trip took place. When I was working at Stanford and was in that area, it was just so interesting to me to see how innovative some of these companies were. I'm just fascinated with the idea of technology in my life. Sometimes I'm a little bit of a late adopter, which you might be surprised by because my work is all tech, but I'm interested to see how it plays out before I decide to invest money in it. But wow, I am just totally engrossed with this world, like how technology makes our lives easier. And once I get on board with something, I'm like the biggest evangelist for it. Like, and again, this is late, but right now my big thing is Instacart. Love Instacart. I just could not be more thrilled with how they take out like some responsibilities of my day and get my groceries for me. But I really think that there's the possibility for technology to make our lives better and easier, and I'm really intrigued by how people start understanding those problems and build technology around those problems. So that's how I got interested in that world. And then I kind of got brought onto the Silicon Valley trip because of Dave at the Wolf Center, the director of the Wolf Center. He wanted to take a trip out there, and I had already been kind of throwing it around in my head to see how we could work it out to have some students go out there, and that trip ended up being an opportunity to test that, and it was amazing. So we had 10 students go out to Silicon Valley and San Francisco too. We did visit some San Francisco startups, which is largely grouped into the same kind of area, the Bay Area startups. It was wonderful. I mean, everybody was so excited. There was such an energy about these startups, and there is a lot of energy in the Houston community as well. But I think with so many startups being condensed in such a small area, you get more of that energy all at once. And also, they get the chance to hear about jobs, the kind of things you can do at startups. They get to hear about what's going on in that area and what new startups are around and how you can really get involved with that. So I think that's a good opportunity for them. And a lot of it just really is just bringing back that kind of passion and energy for startups, and just seeing them can really do that. And something I was saying to a friend of mine was that sometimes being in this world, I get a little jaded on, when I see a workplace that has a ping pong table, I'm just like, oh, well, this is pretty standard, But then when you bring students out there and like, wow, this is really cool. They have like an arcade and a nap room, and they're so excited about it that I'm like, yeah, this is exciting. I sometimes get too deep into this that I don't remember how great this is to have this energy around the workplace, and that I should be really grateful for that experience. So it's good to have their excitement and see that and be there for that experience. And then we just got really lucky with some of the places we got to visit that were incredible experiences, like Square, Pinterest, Masterclass, Facebook, Google, just amazing opportunity to visit those places and hear more about their company.
Yeah.
So
did they all have nap rooms?
Pinterest had a nap room. I'm pretty sure Google and Facebook have them somewhere. We didn't see them. We were in the marketing area of Google, or the partnership area of Google, and then for Facebook in the user research area. So we weren't necessarily involved with in their nap room area.
Yeah. Well, I followed Bauer Snapchat, and we were able to, see what all the students got to do. And so that was pretty amazing, actually. Did you have a particular startup or company that you really liked, whether it's, their environment or just their perks?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I hate to say favorite, because they're all great, and it was so wonderful for all of these people to give us the opportunity to come see their startup and to come be a part of this experience. But Masterclass is probably my favorite, mostly because it is still a true startup. It's farther along, but something like Google and Facebook, they have this startup connotation, but really they're big companies. They're no longer in this startup phase, and Masterclass is closer to that. So I love that environment. I like the area. I'm sorry, by environment I mean like an area. Their co-working space is really cool. Of course, it's great to have the nap rooms and to have the arcade, but an ice cream shop. Went to Facebook's ice cream shop. They have free ice cream for everyone.
Oh, that's so awesome.
I thought for sure you had to pay for it, but you don't.
I just want to live there.
I know. But so Masterclass had this big open area of co-working space where everybody was working together and collaborating. And I have a friend that works there, so that was maybe part of the reason that I was so excited about it, because I got to see him, and he put together a panel of his friends that work there that might be interesting people for the students to meet, like a recruiter, community manager, IT, and he's a data analyst. So it was just all different areas we got to hear from, and all of them were so excited about what Masterclass was doing, because it is still like still so new that people get to be involved with that, the initial the initial structure of the company, and I guess the initial marketing and push to have people use Masterclass and the strategy for what they're doing. So that was really cool. And plus, I'm really interested in education and this whole concept of like self-improvement on your own. So Masterclass is all about that. And I kind of skipped over what Masterclass is for anybody that doesn't know. It's an online education forum where you learn from people that have expertise in that area. So you don't just take a class from someone who put a class up online, but you are learning like basketball from Steph Curry and acting from Helen Mirren and cooking from Gordon Ramsay. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah. I had a great time there. I really loved it.
When it comes to women in the workplace, what do you think they struggle with the most? Do you think it's confidence? Do you think it's being able to have a certain technical skill? And, what do you think by having your students enroll in your Women in Entrepreneurship class can gain and use in the workforce?
It's a number of different things. The technical skill thing I think is important if you're wanting to get into STEM disciplines, or if you want to do a tech startup. I think a lot of women are at some point hold themselves back from doing those kind of opportunities because they think, I don't have the background for that. And that's a whole separate issue that I feel like starts way earlier than we can get to at college, but hopefully can have some reversal at college, or to start to convince women to get into STEM disciplines at college, or just convince them that they can learn these skills even if they didn't go through college in these areas. But I think it certainly holds some people back to think, I don't have these skills and I need them to get this job. And that also blends in with confidence. I think confidence is something that often plagues a lot of women, and whether or not we talk about it often, it is something that I think affects men and women differently. So I just read a book recently called The Confidence Code, and it was about how men and women have different levels of confidence. And something they mentioned that I think is so true, and I don't really like to say that there are any differences between men and women, that you can do all the same things, but they mentioned that women have a tendency to ruminate on things, that we think about things a lot, and sometimes that affects our confidence. It's also something that I think Brene Brown mentions. She mentions the story you're telling yourself in your head, and you're just thinking this. You're ruminating on a comment someone made. You're ruminating on a comment you made, and suddenly you're going down this like spiral of, am I not qualified for this job? And you're thinking about it so much to the point where it's impacting your later activities that you're doing, or whatever later conversations you're having. It can be worked on. It can be something you change, but it's something you have to start thinking about and recognize in yourself before you can work on it. But I think that story that you tell yourself in your head can definitely change. The truth is everyone has their own intelligence, and everyone is an intelligent person. Everyone knows something that you don't know. And if you're starting to get down that spiral, I think it helps to really have those ideas in your mind to say, like, no, I am intelligent. I went to law school. I used to go through this in my mind too. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. Someone's gonna judge me for that. And every time I would run this script over my head or start thinking about it, I would instead start saying, like, well, I may have said something dumb, but I'm not dumb. So I do think that this class will hopefully give people some ways to practice that, and that hopefully they'll have some more confidence, not only from understanding that they can learn different areas, whether or not they had a STEM background or a tech background or made a website or know marketing analytics or finance or legal, that they can learn it, and they always have that ability. And that's, again, a confidence thing. And so I hope that that confidence builds, and then we also work on some of those strategies for confidence.
No, I totally agree. This morning when I was getting ready, there was a video that I saw on my Facebook feed, and it was talking about how this man, when he grew up, he would do everything to, please his father. And one day he wanted to go play with his father, but his father was like, no, why do you think, we can play? Like, we have to work hard to save up money. It's not easy to do all this. And so growing up, he was wired to think that, nothing he did was good enough. And, even though we're talking about like women and confidence, but like I feel like men also struggle with this, like you said. And so for him, he never had that confidence. And so, he would work, he moved out, he would work long hours, he would be able to pay the bill, and he was able to support his family. But at the end of the day, his father was still not proud and never acknowledged all the effort that he put into, getting these results. And until one day he met a mentor and he was like, why do you always feel like this? You're a 30-year-old man now. Why do you still feel like you are incapable? Do you feel capable? And like, who are your idols? And so he referenced his idol, and he once he said like why he looked up to his idol, he started to believe that, if other people can do it, so can I. And so his mentor basically said, the words that follow the two single words, I am, whether it's I am confident, I am smart, I am determined, I'm driven, it's very powerful and impactful. And so, both women and men who I guess can find this confidence in themselves and can really believe in themselves that they can make a change is very impactful to society. And honestly, confidence is key. And I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I love that story. I think that will definitely resonate with a lot of people. Because when we talked about earlier, this whole idea of mentorship, some people already have kind of a built-in support system, and that's great. Then they already have these people that are telling them they can do anything, they can be whatever they want. But when you don't have it, it feels even more like a hardship, and like you're never going to be good enough. You're never going to live up to these expectations, and that can become really difficult as you're moving forward with your career. And again, I just think it's one of those things where either you need to find people that will help you, or start changing that script in your head, start changing what you're telling yourself. And also another thing that I think is really important is like when you're working really hard, you should acknowledge that if we're going to take on so much of anything bad that comes out of our accountability for anything bad, we should start taking accountability for all of the good things we do too. But just don't see enough of that. Everyone points, and me included, I point to like everything that went wrong or like the tiny details that weren't taken care of. And I start thinking about those instead of, man, this was generally a success.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think it's important to reflect on the things that happened, but also it's important to move on from, whether it's a failure or to build on a success. Something else that my friend in the Wolf Center has mentioned in one of our group chats is like, we're all graduating seniors of Bauer. We have, we will be getting a degree and we will be working in a great company in the future. And right now, I guess something that a lot of graduates are doing is, going to career fairs and finding a job. And so we should actually change our mindset. It's not like, why should we join a company? It's like, why shouldn't a company want us to be a part of them? And so I think, going back to the confidence and knowing that we can make an impact is, something students should believe in, and just anyone in the workforce, right? At the end of the day, like all the deliverables that you turn into your managers, like be proud of all the things that you can do, because you did it.
No, I think that's definitely true. I think that's actually a problem with a lot of people with their first job, is that, we're so desperate to get this first job. We need, there's a lot of pressure on this. And so you're not always taking the time to think about what would be the best opportunity for you. And that can lead to a negative first job experience. So I think if you're able to think that way and think, okay, this company would be lucky to have me, I'm going to be making an impact, you're better able to understand where you can make the best impact. One other thing that I just want to say, though, is that I do oftentimes think people get too caught up in having the perfect job and, making sure that it's something they're passionate about. And I think sometimes that's a trap that a trick we're playing on ourselves, like a trap to fall into, is this passion trap that you need to find exactly what you're passionate about. I think if you do an awesome job at whatever you're doing, things will come to you. And I've seen that happen over and over and over again. It's just like, maybe you don't love it, but if you kick butt at it and you just do an amazing job, like I'm telling you, other offers will come in. So, and you don't have to do it for that long if you continue to put that kind of effort into it. I think that things will start coming your way. People will see that and notice that.
All right. Thank you, Kelly, for your time. Again, Kelly McCormick is the program director for Red Labs. Thank you again for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the C.T. Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Working Families Initiative. The initiative aims to provide support and access for women in business school and the workforce, and to generate research that organizations can use to implement policies and standards to benefit a diverse workforce. For more information about Bauer College and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcast.